Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 390 of the Dolphins podcast. There's a buzz in the air. See what I did there?
I like that. That's good.
Thank you.
I was
Uh,
going to say there's renovation now. Everything's being renovated.
Very good, too. I like that. Yes, it's a brand new look, renovated Dolphins offense we shall see on Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 390, as I said, of the All Dolphins podcast on this Thursday, October 24th. Joined today by Dave Hyde, award-winning columnist for the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, author of a couple of books, including Still Perfect on the 1972 Miami Dolphins, including Swagger, about the biography of Jimmy Johnson, former University of Miami, and Dolphin head coach. How are you, Dave Hyde?
I'm doing well. I'm kind of excited for this weekend to see what plays out.
Yeah, it has been rough watching this team. We're going to be honest about it. The past four games, that look you just gave said it all. I mean, woof.
I went to New England and Indianapolis, and look, if you follow the Dolphins for the last quarter century, you've seen a lot of bad games. But those would have ranked up there with top 20 of bad games probably.
Yep. And I'm getting flashbacks of the 2004 offense, the 2007 offense. I'd say 2019, but 2019 was different.
Yeah.
Like in 2004 and 2007, they were trying, but they were just so inefficient offensively. In these past four games, it's just been really, really bad. And it's not only are they losing, they were boring.
Not only boring, they were, fundamentally, this past week, if you were to say which two players you wouldn't expect to cost them the game, Raheem Mostert and Alec Ingold, two veterans and um, great guys, know what to do, team player and veteran running backs, and those two fumbles. You couple that with the limited offense and either team scratching to find any type of mistake or anything to get into the day, and that you can't do that.
Yeah, and I made the point to Perker on an earlier episode of the podcast this week that the running game working is all great and all that. But if you have to have like 15, 16 play drives to score points and you're not scoring a ton and you don't have that quick play, that quick strike ability that you normally would, Dolphins have had the past couple of years, every little mistake gets magnified. They just don't have the margin for error that they used to. For example, against Jacksonville, when they played a flawed game, but then boom, Tua hits Tyreek over the top 80 yards, and just like that, it goes, a tie game.
Yeah, I think running game in today's game is a couple things. One, to control the tempo of the game and to control the clock to help your defense stay off the field. So, you get 32, maybe 33 minutes of possession a game, and your defense likewise gets 27 minutes if you can, something like that. But for scoring points, you got to pass.
Having said that, how all things must pass. How would you expect? What's your level of expectation for Tua in these early games back? Whoops, I think we lost Dave. And we'll continue by myself. Dev is coming back here, and we'll bring him right back. Dave, you don't have to leave me like that. Was that something I said?
That was a tough question. I had to think about it for a while. As far as rust, there'll be a little of that, but I think, look, he's excited. The team's excited. I think he'll play to his level. And you hope it's better than the level of the first couple games in the end of last season. I mean, everybody's assuming, oh, they're going to score 40 points or 30 points again, and that'd be a really good day. But it's not like they were, this running up and down the field with Tua the last several games that he's been out, and so they got to solve a lot of things, and maybe certainly him coming back is the start of solving some of the bigger pictures of getting the ball to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, which, let's face it, you're paying those two guys a lot of money, or those three guys a lot of money for a reason, and that troika makes the offense go.
Yeah, and even if it's not perfect and it takes a while to get back to a certain level, there's no way it can be as bad as it's been the past 4 games. That's, and the defense is good. The defense doesn't get takeaways. Only, I think it's, I know it's 3 picks. The total number of takeaways may be 8. I'm not 100% sure. They don't get a ton of sacks, but they lead the NFL in pass defense. They lead the NFL in third down defense. So they are doing things well, and the defense has put the team in position to win. I would say, other than the Seattle game because they got off to a bad start, but Tennessee game, the defense played well enough. The Indy game, certainly defense played well enough. So it doesn't Dolphins don't need to score 45 points a game to be successful again.
Well, especially if you're going to be playing, Mason Rudolph and Anthony Richardson and Jacoby Brissett. I mean, the defense is playing well. I mean, I've said this before, but if you were going to tell me which unit would be the trouble, I would have been going into the year, would have been the defense because they had a lot of questions, including right at the defensive coordinator because we'd never seen him and he'd never really run it. But what he did in Indianapolis was really good. A lot of blitzing, Jalen Ramsey, and it befuddled Anthony Richardson, and that's what you want to do to a quarterback who really doesn't have a handle on things, and so I'm curious. I don't know what to make of what Arizona's offense is bringing in, from the quarterback to, I mean, they got a powerful running back. They have a talented rookie receiver they don't get the ball to. So, yeah, I don't. Arizona is like another one of these mediocre teams that they've been facing. They've been losing or life and death with, and so we'll see what Tua's entrance back into the season brings.
Correct. Just saw a stat today, right? And then I looked it up to confirm it. Took it back further. This is completely crazy that the Cardinals have not won back-to-back games since 2021.
Oh, well, there you go.
I mean,
that's a good stat.
Like crazy. Okay, before we resume our discussion, let's take care of the news of the day, which is the injury report, which came out. The good news: Tua went from limited on Wednesday to a full participant on Thursday. Basically, an indication. I think the next step is going to, unless I'm severely mistaken, check him like tomorrow, or I think so. Make sure there were no residual effects from the practice day where he was full, and then he's cleared, and then he might not even be on the injury report tomorrow. But the fact that he went limited full, great sign. It's almost stamped that he's going to play Sunday against the Cardinals. The bad news is 2 big names showed up on the injury report for the first time this week, today on Thursday, including Tyreek Hill. He's got a foot injury. Don't know the extent of it. So that's obviously something to monitor, and considering how excited, how giddy Tyreek was in the locker room Wednesday talking about Tua's return, I mean, it would be some massively bad karma here for him to have an issue heading into the game when Tua's coming back. The other one is Zach Sealer has an eye injury that popped up, also limited. Again, we'll know more on Friday when Mike McDaniel addresses the media before practice. 3 guys who, again, did not practice for a second consecutive day, who kind of a bad sign as far as their ability to play. Storm Duck, cornerback ankle, cornerback Kader Kohu, neck injury, and then quarterback Tyler Huntley with the right shoulder. It should be noted Skylar Thompson has not been on the injury report all week, which would lead me to believe that Skylar Thompson will be the number 2 quarterback on Sunday, and the backup quarterback situation is an entire whole other conversation that Dave and I could have. Jalen Waddle also has a quad injury, was limited the first 2 days of practice. So would be more ideal if Tua were to return with everybody, his main guys fully healthy, but such are the Cardinals that are being dealt right now.
Oh, good one. I like that. Yeah. And you know what? Until I hear to the contrary, I'm going to assume Tyreek Hill's going to play. Just limited. That can be a lot of things, and so we'll have to flesh that out a little more and get. But the real issue is practicing with Tua, getting back in timing, and are they not getting just the amount of work they'd like to have in a practice? So but and the as far as Sealer, you're going to talk about one of the guys you can't lose on defense. Jalen Ramsey, Sealer would be number one and two, and so again, that's something to monitor. I assume for no reason other than it just showed up on the injury report that he's going to play, but we'll have to monitor that.
Yeah, and I might make the argument that against Arizona, whose biggest threat right now very well might be the running of James Conner inside.
Yeah.
Dolphins do not have a lot of high-end depth along the interior of the defensive line. Calais Campbell's a complete study. He's been so great, but he can only give you so many snaps because he's 38 years old. Zach Sealer plays a lot of snaps, and he's really, really good also. So the Dolphins cannot afford to be without Zach Sealer. Again, we're certainly not going to jump to saying that his availability could be in question, but it's obviously something to monitor.
This is something you talk about. The only problem Arizona really presents is, as you mentioned, Connor's running and Kyler Murray's speed, and more than his throwing. And you talk about discipline on defense and setting the edges. What are the Dolphins had problems at times with setting the edges and just lane discipline and all that is going to be very important for this team. And Kamara's playing, a rookie who hasn't played a lot. Chop Robinson has, that's it running. Defense is one issue that I don't know. I don't know. It's been a huge problem, but he's not been strong with it either. But these are questions the Dolphins are always going to have right now until they get some veteran edge guys back in there.
Yeah, and
they're veteran edge guys back in there.
Yeah, who knows when that's going to. Well, we're hoping Emmanuel Agba will be back after he missed the game against Indy because of bicep injury. He was limited for a second consecutive day. And this is where I would point out, and I asked Anthony Weaver about this today when the coordinator spoke along with a couple of assistant coaches, like the lane discipline it's going to require from those edge defenders. A lot of them who are very young, because if you saw the game Monday night between the Cardinals and the Chargers, there one mistake that the Chargers made on one play is they had an edge defender, was Bud Dupree, who rushed down, wound up going past Kyler Murray, created a huge hole toward the edge, and Murray ran through it, then went outside and easily ran around the outside linebacker, 44 yards touchdown. And that he can do that like that because the dude is quick. I mean, he's borderline Lamar Jackson quick. That's
Yep, he was gone around that edge. And the other, as you mentioned, James Conner is the other threat. A power running game. This is a game where if you were to pick cornerbacks to miss a game or have issues of injury, this would be one that you say, okay, we should be able to survive this one because Arizona is not a dangerously passing team.
Right.
They haven't proved to be, and so it's more up front and like you said, this discipline, lane discipline, understanding how you can get beat, but Anthony Weaver's, I'm not really worried about his scheme. He's schemed up everything very well this year, and it's tells you what a wacky year it is. All the questions are on the other side of the ball and special teams.
Yeah, and I would say this is a game I would not worry because I brought it up, the fact that Dolphins don't have a lot of sacks. I don't care about sacks in this game against Arizona. The number one priority of the pass rush is keep Kyler Murray in there. Okay, even if he has if there are plays where he has too much time to throw, you know what? That's a price I'd much rather pay than having him run around on the edges past the first line of rushers. That would be the worst case scenario. And Cater Cole, for example, who actually I thought had a great game against the Colts in coverage, where to me he would be missed most in this particular game was his tackling ability, particularly if Kyler gets out of the pocket, because that's something he does very, very well as a cornerback.
Yeah, Kyler Murray at 5'6", if you can somehow keep him in the pocket most of the afternoon, he's not going to be able to see downfield he shouldn't be able to see as long as you keep your guys in front of him. And I'm sure, look, Anthony Weaver, I'm sure is imprinting that on those guys' minds.
Yeah, and his accuracy is very, very spotty too. So, Dave, this is the first time you've been on since Monday. So I want to get your overall thoughts on the Tua press conference and his, I guess, his demeanor. What'd you make of it?
Yeah, it was a defiant too. I was surprised. I thought we'd have if not a grateful to, a excited to about coming back. And while he said he was excited, his general tone and demeanor was of, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in this center ring of attention over concussions. And thinking about it, I get where he's coming from. It's probably not been fun for him again the last several weeks to hear his name bandied about and concussion. Should he retire? Should he not retire? Et cetera, et cetera. Um, but I was surprised that that was the tone he adopted. That's as far as his answers about. I agree. It's his decision to make. Look,
Sure.
he's got all the information. He's an adult. He knows at age 50, 60, the issues that could crop up or before. I think selfishly in this case, I don't want to be there and have to write if he gets hurt again. I don't want to see another everybody goes down on the knee and
Yeah.
takes it. But as far as any information or any extensive critical thinking over should he or shouldn't play. The neurologists are all over the place on this.
Yep.
So how can a sports writer, anybody, and I think I've said this here, anybody who claims to or takes a hard stance he shouldn't play, they don't really know what they're not coming up from medical. If they want to come out from emotionally, they don't want them to play because they don't want to watch it or they fear for his health. I get that. That's okay. But to say look, there are guys in the league with more concussions than Tua. Now, maybe not more severe concussions.
Correct.
And that's really the issue here is the severity of his concussions, where he's been knocked down and need to be carried off the field and fencing pose, et cetera. We've all seen it. So, but his tone on Monday surprised me more than the words of his answers did.
No, I agree, and yeah, and I'm with you on this. It's like, who is anybody to say he should retire and all that? It's again, I'm going to assume he got a ton of information from medical experts who laid it out for him. The risks involved. He understands. He made his decision. It's his decision. And again, like I'm with you. Like nobody wants to see anything happen. Tell me if I'm crazy about the theory that I have here a little bit because he was asked about the guardian cap. Are you good? Go ahead. What?
No, you're crazy.
Oh, okay. I mean, I thought I had fooled you. His answer was no. Nope, I should say. Why? Personal choice. Understanding how Tua does not want to be associated, or does not want to be the poster child for concussions. If he's on the field with a guardian cap, does not scream, "Hey, poster child here," and that maybe that the evidence has not shown that it reduces or eliminates the risk of concussions enough to override the factor of I want this topic to not come up, and if I have the guardian cap, it's almost like I have a neon sign on my helmet.
Yeah,
thinking,
this is another one people are taking hard. I saw on Pro Football Talk they did, and I read a couple reports because I was curious, or I tried to read a couple reports that were done in last fall on guardian caps, and mainly they were done in colleges, and they're inconclusive, meaning there's not enough evidence, as you meant, to show that they are protective. And the question isn't, do they eliminate concussions? It's severity of concussions right now that they're trying to understand. Could a guy suffer a concussion, but it's not as severe if he's wearing the guardian cap? But You would think it would help. Do I? At the same time, I understand why Tua would not want to wear one, and again, he doesn't want to be the poster child of concussions. Now, um, health has to be the number one concern. Um,
Yeah.
but again, this is his decision, the team's decision if they let him do it. And there's not enough. Should you make people wear a safety belt in a car? Yes. Does that apply here? I'm not sure the studies have shown that it does yet.
Well, the CBA prevents teams from forcing players to wear the garden cap. But that's an interesting question. Should you be forced to wear a seatbelt when you're driving?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
because
know.
I don't want to pay. I don't want to pay for people without insurance getting hurt. Let's start there. Okay.
Okay. Okay. And yeah, again, to me, if there's a potential cost to somebody else, that's fine. With the garden cap, again, if he doesn't wear one and it goes south for some reason, the only person he's hurting is himself. And again,
Yeah.
this personal decision, I'm going to guess his wife may have given her input into this. So,
But let's understand this is a ridiculously violent game.
yes,
I mean, I usually at the start of every football season I write a column saying, well, how can this be America's game? Where virtually every game there is either somebody's blown out some major limb, or people are going down on a knee on a field and praying that somebody isn't paralyzed. And as I get older and this continually happens, I'm like, where does this say that this is our national game? And I'm right there in the middle of it because I'm enjoying watching it too, just like everybody else. But it's ridiculously violent.
yeah. And I remember and I'm sure you remember the good old days when we were allowed on the field in the final 6 minutes of the game. And I remember the first time I was down there, I was like, oh my,
Yes.
this
If you
crazy.
never if you've never been down on the field and you see the size and speed of the guys is completely different than you see up in the upper deck or wherever, and B, the noise of hitting. It reminds me when I used to go once in a while to a boxing match and you're sitting ringside and you hear leather hitting face. It is a sound that it's it's grotesque at times, and the hitting that goes on in football games, the loud noises that come, it's shocking if you haven't ever been down there.
Yeah, it was completely crazy. It's like a car crash every play. Um,
Yeah.
but we enjoy it and it's fun. And again, the players who are involved understand what they're signing up for, and they get compensated very handsomely. So,
And as I've compared it to, and it's not war, I get that, but General Patton in the movie, when George C. Scott plays the role at the end, he's walking over a battlefield and he says, it's like the closing line of the movie. He goes, "God help me, I love it so." And it's sort of like football fans, including I'm right there with everybody. The violence and the ridiculous things that happen to the bodies, and to take it a further level, just what guys do to get on the field at times, shots fortunately they're a little smarter about it now than they used to be, but there is a weird thing about watching a game where people get so violently hurt.
okay, let's pivot to something more cheerful. Um,
Yes.
give the Dolphins fans some hope. Dolphins are going to make the playoffs because
Well, they're going to make the playoffs because they have a legitimate NFL quarterback now, and not somebody who, and all those guys should have been on a practice squad somewhere. And you look at the bottom 10 of quarterbacks to play this year, the Dolphins probably have three of them. And so they have a legitimate quarterback and a guy that this offense is built for. We've seen how it runs with Tua at its best. Can they get back to that level? Does his return kickstart some emotion too on the rest of the team about let's play smarter, let's execute better, all that stuff that okay we got that we haven't seen really in any game this year, and so they've eked out a couple and toughed out a couple, um, but you haven't seen um, the gears get in proper motion on the offense and or the smarts on the special teams, and then so can Mike McDaniel get it going now?
Yeah, and there's been so much talk about, the offense didn't look good at the end of last year, didn't look good in the first 2 games before Tua got hurt. But again, didn't look good this year before Tua got hurt. It's a game in 3 quarters. It's a really small sample size. And I'm always one to preach, can we give it some time? So to dismiss the offense as being, well, it's going to be what it was at the end of last year and the Jacksonville Buffalo games, can we give it some time to see if maybe it reaches a higher level before we do that?
No, not now.
Okay.
But one thing they don't have now is time. At the start of the year, I agree with you that it was such you didn't see much of it for 2 games basically when he was in there. But they don't have time now. They got to kickstart it because just do the math. They're 2-4. They need to go 9-2 to match last year's record where they didn't have home field. Huh?
They're not matching last year's record.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is that okay, 8-3 is a possible. Not 7-4 puts them at 9 wins. So they don't have time to say, oh, let's get up to speed here. They got to hit it right from the start.
Sure, but they can win a game here or there, like specifically against the Cardinals without the offense really humming. The next week at Buffalo obviously is going to be a different story.
But one thing in their favor is the schedule. All of a sudden, at the start of the year, it looks so difficult. But one thing we know is not to play the advance in the NFL schedules. It's fun. We don't have anything else to do, so we go with the Las Vegas win totals, and that makes sense. But now as you get closer, look at these teams. The Raiders are disaster. The Rams are going to be trading players. They've started to. The Browns, okay, they're going off the shelf. The Jets, they're 2-5. Who knows what they'll be when the Dolphins play them? So all of a sudden, a schedule that looks in trouble. The Dolphins have the easiest schedule in the league. From here to that point, they have the easiest schedule to today too. So, and that's got them 2-4. So, yeah, But now if they get things going, they can get on a little run here.
Yeah, and I think a big part of what's becoming problematic about the schedule down the stretch, not becoming, but I should say that maybe most challenging isn't so much the opponents, but the weather that they could face at Green Bay, at Cleveland, and at New York or at MetLife Stadium. And my hope also is, and I wrote about this on Miami Dolphins on SI.com, is that Mike McDaniel gets back to being a little bit more aggressive than he's been to me. He's been very, very defensive minded in his approach of coaching, going for field goals on 4th and 1, trying to make kicks from 50 plus. And I dug up the stat that blew me away. Dolphins have had 11 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1 situations so far this season. They have attempted exactly 0 passes.
It's surprising. It's surprising. Oh, 0 passes. Is that right? Oh, I didn't know that.
1 on 4th and 1.
Where's their conversion rate on that? Not good, I know.
They're 7 for 13, which is not good. And part of it is if Tyler Huntley, Tim Boyle, or Skylar Thompson are a quarterback, maybe the opponents are expecting the run because Mike McDaniel doesn't have that level of trust that he would have in Tua, where they threw the ball a lot on 3rd and 1 last year. At times, maybe too much. But again, this is where let's find the balance. Last year was too much. This year, you don't have a single attempt. They've had 9 3rd and 1s that have all been runs. Can we find somewhere a nice middle ground here?
I will say I was talking to Teron Armstead in Indianapolis after the game, And he said after the New England game, Tua came into the locker room and said, "We're going to run like that when I get back." And where you look at things to be positive about, things they can build on. They've discovered a running game, and they ran. I get that they ran for a lot of yards last year, but they've shown that when they want to, they can be physical. And we didn't know that about this offense. Okay, now they admittedly has come against poor run defenses. Okay, I get, and this is another one this weekend. The Arizona is not a good run defense, but at least they've shown the ability to do that. Now, if they get the passing game going, um, then you have the makings of a real offense. Okay, that can bend to the day as they need to, or the situation as they need to.
We'll talk before then, but the trade deadline is Tuesday, November 5th. If the Dolphins lose Sunday against the Cardinals, and my official prediction will be out Saturday morning, as it always is on MiamiDolphinsOnSide.com. But for now, I'm kind of leaning pretty strongly toward a win. But should they lose and fall to 2-5, are you at the point where you would say you could be saying goodbye to some players, Dolphins becoming sellers at the trade deadline?
Oh, but who are you going to trade? Let's start here. Who Tyreek Hill would be number one, because he'd have the most value. Let's put it that way. Um, yeah, do you want to go another complete rebuild again? Let's start here. Who's going to do the rebuild? Are you going to have Chris Greer do it again? I mean, if you're Steve Ross, and I wrote a column about this a couple of weeks ago, the decisions you got to start thinking about are you need to invest in another quarterback. You just got to, because you cannot have this concussion thing. It's going to be hanging over the franchise. And where's the line where, okay, two is fine now, but he missed a month.
Yep.
If he gets another concussion, that's 2 or 3 years. So you need to invest in a quarterback. How do you do that? And second of all, do you want Chris Greer investing in the quarterback? Because he's whiffed many times and hasn't had the answer in 9 years. And so, I'm a roundabout way of answering your question. Do you trade? Okay, you're going to do the rebuild then, right? Now, maybe a mini rebuild or retooling or refurbishing. Um, I'm not down to a conclusion on that. Their season's in trouble right now. Okay, they aren't going to get a home field advantage unless something just completely shocking. Um, they're going to be struggling with a couple other teams to make the playoffs, but there's enough runway in them that you and enough. The AFC hasn't looked what a lot of us like me thought it would be. So there's going to be jockeying for the playoffs. They could make that. I would say no. I would say, but talk to me on Monday if they lose to Arizona, and
Yeah.
we'll have to see.
But we're going to think positive. We're going to think that they're absolutely going to win against Arizona, and then they're going to shock the world and win at Buffalo.
Where do you stand on the trade thing?
If they trade off a big piece like a Tyreek Hill, for example, and again, what are you going to get if Devontae Adams fetches a conditional third or conditional second? What are you getting for Tyreek? You think? He's got big contract left beyond this year, so I don't know that.
And he's 30. He's age 30 too.
And he's 30. I don't know that you're going to get a ton, and you kind of committed to this setup Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, and then you can add Jalen Ramsey. Mike McDaniel got a 2-year contract extension. If you're going to start selling off players, that means, yeah, you're blowing it up. And in that particular case, yeah, I would be flabbergasted if it was Chris Greer who was given the reins to do the rebuild. But I would be surprised if they were in selling mode, because I think even they could look beyond this year. And one more quick point. Tua plays the rest of the season, no issues. When you say you got to go get a quarterback, and I could not agree with you more. But to me, again, with the investment that they've made in Tua, to me, it would be more along the lines of get yourself like a high-end backup, for goodness sake, like they should have done this year. I mean, holy moly.
Well, there's the question. Okay, do you get a Joe Flacco per se, a veteran,
At the
um,
least.
or do you invest a first round pick in a quarterback? And that will come down to. I mean, we're talking about hypotheticals. Where are they going to pick? Who's going to be available? How do they rate the quarterbacks, et cetera? So I'm not. I'm just saying this is what Steve Ross has to start considering now.
Yeah.
You know, he's and larger than that, who's he going to pick? Who's he going to allow to pick the quarterback? Does you want Chris Greer to be picking him again if this season stays on the direction it is right now? So, but
You
again, there's a
sound
lot
like
of
you don't.
season left to play out.
You sound like you don't.
Well, if the season plays out like this, I don't. I mean, I 2016 starting 2017, they needed a quarterback. Okay, Ryan Tannehill was hurt. Teams were making inspired trades all around the Dolphins
Yep.
for quarterbacks. Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, right in that. Then you go down the line of quarterbacks they could have had, and what's the trade he makes? Josh Rosen. I get he's taking a flyer on him, but that's a second round pick at a time when you know he was a disaster. So you know, and what since then? And you got the two has lived up to exactly what pretty much what people expected. You know, and a decent, pretty good NFL quarterback. Um, that we're waiting. Could he take a next step or not? But also an injury concern. And you know, I wrote a column on that, quoting Rex Ryan and even Mike Tannenbaum, and a couple other NFL people saying they couldn't take him because it was an injury concern. Now it wasn't so much concussions, but the point was he's smaller and slower, and that's what you had to worry about. So this isn't a Tua thing, though. This is a Chris Greer thing. And if I'm Steve Ross, I got to consider all this. Would I want him making another franchise investing decision like this, which is what I will say in fairness, how many guys do know how to pick quarterbacks? So it's a great mystery of the NFL. You know, there's only a handful of them who have shown the ability to do it, and so um, the question is, how do you get one? And it starts with either you got to be really lucky and get the number one pick at the right year, or trade up to number 10 and take Matt Patrick, or you have to be, I shouldn't say that was luck, or you have to be really smart and know what you're looking for and trade up for the right guy. So I don't know how I got off on this tangent of where we are, but
Okay. Yeah.
uh, this is something the Dolphins have to consider or Steve Ross, I think, would as the season moves on.
Yeah. And the other part of the equation that I'm going to throw out there is Stephen Ross has always lauded Chris Greer for his ability to collaborate. And how many of those picks are completely Chris Greer picks or Chris Greer decisions?
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. You know why I don't want to hear that? Because he's GM, first time coach Adam Gase, GM, first time coach Brian Flores, GM, first time coach Mike McDaniel. At some point, if you are a veteran general manager, you've got to be the one. Yes, there's got to be, of course, there's collaboration, but you can't just bend to, oh, you want this guy? Oh, I'll get you this guy. You're the veteran. You've been through the the mistakes that this franchise has made and the learning experiences. And these are first time coaches. Okay, they're making the mistakes first time coaches do, all of them. And so, I don't want to hear that. Oh, Brian Flores wanted this guy, so Chris Greer got him.
Well, Brian Flores
Brian
didn't
Flores
want to, so.
wanted to trade Minka Fitzpatrick, so we traded Minka. How stupid is that? Dan Marino asked for a trade. Did Shula trade him? Of course he didn't. I mean,
Okay, but for example, here's the thing: if Chris Greer is having a conversation with Mike McDaniel last offseason, and Chris Greer said we need to upgrade a quarterback, and Mike McDaniel is adamant, I can make it work with Skylar. I don't need an upgrade at quarterback. With Skylar Thompson and Mike White are more than good enough. They're going to get the job done. I will make them completely efficient. If something happens to Tua, we'll be good to go.
I don't buy it if I'm Chris Greer. I
Oh,
say, Mike, I get it. And you know what? We're going to keep those guys, but we're going to bring in a Joe Flacco, a somebody. If the season goes, if Tua gets hurt, that we're in trust. I'm not going to entrust my career to Skylar Thompson. I saw Skylar Thompson practices a few times a week this summer and in preseason. And with my uneducated eye, I was like, he's not looking very good.
no.
Okay. And so the same with Mike White. I don't know how they differentiated one from the other, but they did. But if I can see, and I wrote a column that they got to go out and get Tannehill. So yeah, no, I don't. If I'm Chris Greer, no, that's where your experience and your ability to say, you know what, we've gone through this a few times. We had Ryan Tannehill, we had to bring in Jay Cutler, and that was a disaster. Okay, we want to go out and get somebody we went through this 2 years ago with Tua, where he had concussions and we relied on Skylar Thompson doing that. With that, how uncomfortable is that? I get Skylar Thompson in his third year, not a rookie, but no, I'm not putting my career on. If I'm putting it on somebody that I can trust, and that's what I would have expected a veteran GM to do.
In an ideal scenario, yes, I don't disagree with you there. But again, it's kind of a unique structure here the Dolphins have. I don't think they have like what we would call a, and I could be totally wrong. This is my perception that they don't have like necessarily a strong GM. And you forgot in 2022, the backup was Teddy B, who to me was perfectly fine. Yes,
there was a good backup. Yeah, I agree.
Except he kept getting hurt. Except he getting hurt.
He got hurt. Now that was unfortunate. Those were unfortunate. But that you're right. That was a good backup situation. That was exactly what you want. And you look at Teddy's numbers when he was actually, and they were pretty good.
Yep.
So,
yep.
I would have gone a Teddy Bridgewater route this year.
Hell, Marcus Mariota would have been better than maintaining the status quo. Or Joe Flacco, and there were others. I wrote about this. So anyway, we're going to wrap it up on this note because again, we could keep going off in the distance quite a while with this topic. That's going to do it for this episode on this Thursday, October 24th. Dave Hyde, thanks as always. Please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, and we'll catch everyone on Friday. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your evening.